Okay, picture this. The ground just falls away 1 mile straight down. A river can't even hear from here has been carving a poem into stone for longer than human memory. You can feel the time.
You can also feel that I've scooted about 3 inches too close to the edge for Dan's heart rate. He might push me.
Feet back from the rim, please.
No promises, but hey, if I plummet, at least put on something dramatic for the outro, like a choir.
Choir of heart attacks? We're not even at the Grand Canyon today. But that's the vibe. Awe, vertigo, and the sudden urge to become a poet. This is Time Tellers. I'm Dan.
And I'm Renee, your cheerful danger magnet, and today we're kicking off a 5-part series on the U.S. National Parks. Episode 1 is, of course, the origin story, how the whole set it aside for everyone forever idea even happened, why it mattered, what went right, and what went wrong.
We'll talk Yellowstone and Yosemite, John Muir and Theodore Roosevelt, the Organic Act that created the National Park Service, Mission 66, big wins, bitter fights, and the hard truths, especially about Indigenous communities whose homelands became parks.
Then we'll tease out our next 4 regional episodes, Northeast, Northwest, Southeast, Southwest, each with a mix of iconic and lesser-known parks with very juicy stories.
Seatbelts, water bottles. You good?
We need a seatbelt?
Yeah. You better strap in.
Have you been to the Grand Canyon?
Sure. Let's go.
Are you lying to me right now? I have been to the Grand Canyon. So.
Resisting the urge to make a joke?
The year is 1872. The United States Congress does something nobody has really done at this scale before. It creates Yellowstone National Park. They don't call it a country club for the rich. They don't sell it to the highest bidder. They protect it in federal law for the benefit and enjoyment of the people.
That phrase, for the benefit and enjoyment, is deceptively radical. This is land with geysers launching boiling water into the sky, canyons painted with iron and sulfur, herds of bison, wolves, grizzlies, in almost any other era. That would have been parceled into mines, mills, and rail spurs.
Instead, Yellowstone became a world first, a continental-scale landscape preserved not as a royal hunting ground, not as a private preserve, but as a public treasure. The pitch that carried Congress wasn't just the words, it was pictures. Watercolors by Thomas Moran, photographs by William Henry Jackson. Think 19th century Instagram, except they lugged glass plates over mountains.
And then reality. The law is on paper, but there's no money, no staff, and no clear enforcement. Poachers target the last wild bison, souvenir hunters chisel chunks off geyser cones. For a while, Yellowstone is a national park in name, with the U.S. Army acting as a de facto ranger squad to stop the bleeding.
Put a pin in that. The Army, in flat-brim hats patrolling geysers at dawn. So cinematic.
The big idea existed, but the infrastructure of stewardship did not. Yeah.
Enter John Muir, naturalist, writer, professional evangelist for mountains. He calls Yosemite the grandest of all special temples of nature.
Muir pushes a controversial thesis. Wilderness has intrinsic value. It doesn't need to be justified by timber yield or gold veins. It's good for the human soul and therefore for the nation.
On the other side of the campfire, Theodore Roosevelt, cowboy-in-chief, trust buster, bird watcher, and president. In 1903, the two of them camped together in Yosemite. It's cold. It snows. At one point, they reportedly brush snow off their blankets and talk under the sequoias about saving big places for the public.
Roosevelt already loves wild country. Muir's zeal lights it up. As president, Teddy Roosevelt protects about 230 million acres by various designations. The tool he wields like a lightsaber is the Antiquities Act of 1906, which lets presidents create national monuments to protect objects of historic or scientific interest.
Translation: you don't have to wait years for Congress to act. You can save the thing now. You being Roosevelt, the president. Roosevelt promptly saves a lot of things. Devil's Tower, Petrified Forest, and, in spite of mining interests, Grand Canyon as a monument years before it becomes a national park.
Teddy Roosevelt visits the Grand Canyon and says, "Leave it as it is. You cannot improve on it." That line became the creed, but even Roosevelt couldn't save everything.
Hutch Hetchley, Yosemite's sister valley, is dammed in 1913 to supply water to San Francisco. Muir calls it a loss as if one's cathedrals were desecrated. It's the first great conservation defeat, and it teaches future activists how high the stakes can be. I'm sorry I can't talk today, apparently.
By the 1910s, America has parks in the plural and monuments scattered under different departments. There's no single mission, no professional corps, and tourism is surging. Railroads build grand lodges on canyon rims.
Scary. Businessman turned crusader Stephen Mather and his deputy Horace Albright lobby for a dedicated park bureau. In 1916, Congress passes the National Park Service Organic Act. It creates the NPS and gives it the famous dual mandate: conserve the scenery, natural and historic objects, and wildlife, and provide for their enjoyment by the public in such manner and by such means as will leave them unimpaired for future generations.
That sentence is poetry and a paradox. Enjoy it and don't harm it. The service spends the next century walking that tightrope. How to build roads to the view without paving the view over.
Still, a unified agency is a game changer. Standards, training, a mission. The Army hands Yellowstone to rangers in flat hats with a different job. Not to hold a fort, but to hold a promise.
The park idea expands. In 1933, a major reorganization moves many national monuments and historic sites under the Park Service. Suddenly, the same agency that stewards bison also stewards battlefields and presidential homes.
Yes, and we should note that they don't mean move. We don't mean move, like literally. Congress codifies this broader role with the Historic Sites Act of 1935. A park isn't only a glacier and a geyser, it can be a story, a battlefield, an archaeological site, a civil rights landmark. That's how later we get places like Independence Hall, Little Rock Central High School, and Manzanar in the same family as Denali and the Everglades.
After World War II, park visitation explodes. The NPS launches Mission 66, 1956 to 66, a 10-year build-out to handle crowds, visitor centers, campgrounds, scenic roads. It modernizes the experience, but also sparks debates we still have. How much access is too much?
Meanwhile, the Wilderness Act of 1964 and the National Historic Preservation Act of 1966 adds new teeth and tools. Unimpaired grows some definitions.
Yeah.
Here's the hard truth. Many parks stand on Indigenous homelands. The creation stories we often tell, empty wilderness saved for all, erase people who lived, traveled, hunted, gathered, prayed, and buried their dead there for millennia.
Yellowstone is a textbook case. At least 24 tribes have long ties to the region. Shoshone, Crow, Bannock, Nez Perce, among others. The Tukadika Shoshone sheep-eaters used the thermal areas and hunted bighorn sheep. After 1872, policy and force pushed native peoples out or severely restricted their use.
In Glacier, the Eastern Front was Blackfeet land until a coerced cession in 1895. Conflicts over access and use followed. In Grand Canyon, the Havasupai were confined to a tiny fraction of their homeland after park creation, only regaining part of their ancestral lands in 1975. At Canyon de Chile, the Park Service co-manages with the Navajo Nation, a model that recognizes living communities.
Today, the NPS is more intentional about tribal collaboration, formal consultation, co-stewardship agreements, returning certain artifacts, and welcoming tribal interpretation on site. It can't undo the past, but it can change how the story is told and who gets to tell it.
No one can change the past.
Sure you can. You just have to say your version of it until there's nobody that can argue with you.
For our regional episodes, we'll bring those voices in, origin stories that predate the Park Service by thousands of years.
Early parks had to protect wildlife not just from predators, but from us. Poaching in Yellowstone got so bad that Congress passed the Lacey Act in 1894 to give the park real legal teeth. The Army patrols work. Bison rebound from the brink of extinction.
Then we learn that management can wound too. In the early 20th century, ranger policy was put out every fire. Decades later, ecologists realized many park ecosystems needed a periodic fire. The policy shifts to prescribed burns and managed lighting fires. Controversial, but essential.
Predators. We once shot wolves out of Yellowstone. Elk population soared. Willows and aspens suffered, riverbanks eroded. In the 1990s, wolves were reintroduced. Elk behavior changed, more movement, fewer lazy riverbank lunches, and riparian zones recovered. The ecosystem actually recomposed itself in healthier patterns.
It's humbling. We created parks to freeze perfection in place and learned nature isn't still life, it's a verb.
Can you fit some more P's in that statement?
Well, that and the fact that it's a verb. I understand the sentiment and the idea, but just calling it by a part of speech is kind of funny.
Shut up, teacher.
Fast forward, the parks are widely popular, sometimes too popular. There are Yosemite traffic jams and trailhead lotteries. Some parks test reservation systems to spread out the crush. The debate: is this gatekeeping or stewardship?
Climate change reshuffles the deck. Glaciers retreat in glacier. Wildfire seasons grow longer. Invasive species ride in on warmer currents. Shorelines and swamps drown in salt. Rangers who signed up to give campfire talks now also talk carbon budgets.
Another conversation. What is wrong with me?
Do you want me to answer that?
No.
I will answer in a text message then. So our listeners don't have to hear me.
There is so much that will take too long to type out. Another conversation. Who feels welcome in these spaces? Historically, access was easier for those with time, money, and cultural comfort in the outdoors. I think that's still true. Today, there's a push for transit option, fee-free days, community partnerships, and more inclusive storytelling, so that for the benefit and enjoyment of the people really means all the people.
And out west, the fight over public lands continues. How much to protect, how to protect it, and whose voices carry weight. The Antiquities Act is still the emergency brake and the accelerator, depending on who's at the wheel.
Lightning round. Park facts that belong in your backpack.
Oh boy, how big's my backpack?
We'll find out. Rapid fire. Dan, you ready?
No.
That's not your line. First national park.
Yellowstone, 1872.
First national park created primarily for archaeology.
Mesa Verde, 1906. Ancestral Puebloan cliff dwellings.
International Peace Park.
Waterton Glacier, which is on the border of the U.S. and Canada. It's a symbol of cross-border conservation.
Biggest philanthropy flex.
John D. Rockefeller Jr., from Acadia's carriage routes to the millions that made the Great Smoky Mountains possible.
Best presidential rim of the canyon mic drop.
Theodore Roosevelt at the Grand Canyon. Leave it as it is. Still the mission statement.
Most ecological reversal.
A wolf reintroduction in Yellowstone, an ecosystem lesson in teeth and balance.
Spiciest controversy.
It's a tie. The Hetch Hetchy damming, or the 20th/21st century monument boundary battles. Conservation learns to fight with the law, science, and public opinion. Did I win?
You finished solid second. Yep. Mm-hmm. Second to me, who was asking the question. So first, good job. I don't know what I'm saying.
Can I get my participation medal, please?
Sure, I'll get the ribbon and pin it with the sharp side out to your chest.
I'm glad you specified where you were going to pin it.
Oh, yeah.
You can tally acres and acts of Congress, but here's the heart of it. The parks are a living contract, not between government and land, but between generations.
Someone looked at a valley or a reef or a battlefield and said, "We are not going to cash this in today. We are going to keep it together so tomorrow can still stand here. We can still stand here."
Yep. And that word together matters. The story started with painters and presidents, but it's held together by rangers, tribal partners, scientists, local communities, little kids with junior ranger badges, and yes, us, showing up, learning, and voting like it matters.
And you can even get a little passport for all the national parks. I used to have one as a kid. I don't know where it is now, but it was pretty cool
Well,
in
go get
my
another one, and there
dork
you go.
of dork hearts. Because it does. When you watch sunrise burn on a granite face or hear a loon across a northern lake, you're not just a tourist. You're a witness, a time teller. The look we just shared. Oh, great.
We'll save that for the Patreon video. The parks aren't perfect. Their history includes displacements, defeats, and detours.
Alliteration. Sorry.
Shut up. It's not your turn. But they remain one of the most audacious ideas we've tried. That some places belong to everyone forever.
Next up in our series, the Northeast. We'll climb the pink granite of Acadia, walk the Saratoga Fields where revolution pivoted, and stand at Gettysburg where a nation defined itself. Plus, a couple lesser-known sites with stories that deserve better billing.
After that, we'll sweep northwest, from geysers and grizzlies to temperate rainforests and the tallest trees, dip into the southeast, the Smokies, the swamps, and a remote Civil War island fort where Doctor redeemed his name, and then blaze through the southwest, canyons, cliff dwellings, and century-old conservation arguments that are very much alive.
If you've got a park story, family memory, tribal perspective, a ranger tale, send it our way, and we'll try to fold it in. Seriously, please do.
Yes. This series is for anyone who's ever gasped at a view or found a quiet corner of forest that made time weird. Like it is right now. These are weird times.
And we're all living in them.
That's the magic that parks protect.
Thanks for listening. I'm Renee.
I'm Dan. See you on the trail, just not too close to the edge.